Hello everyone, it's Rendon. I'm coming to you now not so much with a new build, as with thoughts about builds in general during this year of 2025. I've had the itch to create something for a while to talk about, but most of the things I've tried to create haven't really stuck for a couple of reasons. One part I think is I'm still playing classic Elden Ring, and not seamless. Another is that I've attempted to make builds at certain brackets that have just become far less fun to participate in. My reasons for not jumping into seamless aren't due to any real limitation, but kind of my impression of what invasions are like there. I think it's fair to characterize invasions generally as easier overall on seamless. And this is based on the invaders that I follow, who primarily focus their time in that mod. But I don't want to give off the impression that I feel invasions on console are superior in some way, or necessarily a better place for skill expression. Nearly every invader who is on seamless now started doing invasions in base Elden Ring, experiencing the exact same environment that I have chosen to stay in. It seems like the main reason a lot of them have chosen to switch over is because it is a better invasion experience overall. From my understanding, when you invade in seamless, you are matched to the highest player in that current world. Which makes sense because you need to eliminate all players in the field instead of just the host to win an invasion. So if that is the case, it really eliminates one of the largest issues in PvP, which are the unscaled phantoms. Really, right now, the only thing I can think of for why I'm not doing seamless is just based on personal hangups, or some misguided mental block about staying in the pure invasion experience. And that will probably change in the near future. I started by trying to create a couple of characters around rune level 80 during this process, one I gave up on because it became too complex to be effective, relying on the host and phantoms themselves to really get it going. The other is one you're seeing in the video with the offhand matting hand, say that 3 times fast, and Death Knight long half-axe. Long story short, it's fun, but just doesn't work as perfectly in reality as its conception in my head. That and rune level 80 hasn't been all that great the last couple times I've really attempted to do it. I keep thinking it will be the same experience as 70, and for whatever reason, it just never is. Honestly, if I could continue to recommend a level to invade in base Elden Ring, it would be 70. I've made so many builds at that level that I have just really enjoyed. Just nothing else compares to it for me. It really is that great. I subconsciously, though, find myself on Character Planner trying to squeeze in all my characters at that range. It's only when I just can't make it work that I give up, and it moves up to the 80s bracket. Now, don't let your head spin here. I'm going to do a hard pivot to the point of this video, so I'm just giving you a heads up. Part of the reason I don't fully engage with optimized and meta content is that I make builds that inherently have weaknesses built in, and I haven't found that to be a drag. If anything, that makes them more fun. If you know the types of invasion streamers I watch, like Juno GLRR, Rob576, Storyteller, Makuda, Saint Riot, Pinko, etc., you'd understand I'm not talking about builds or players who removed optimization altogether. I'm talking about build crafters that try to make use of the large variety of weapons a game like Elden Ring has to offer, and resisting the urge to lean every time towards the couple options From Software has unintentionally made the clear strongest picks in this game. I watched a video not too long ago where the YouTuber was essentially boiling down Elden Ring invasions into 2 avenues. You should either play to win, if you want to win, or stop complaining if you lose while not. I won't mention the actual YouTuber's name, because I'm not here for that, but I will say I absolutely agree with him, but also completely disagree on the sentiment. You'll say, Rendon, that doesn't make any sense. Yes, it does. I can't argue with what he's saying, because Elden Ring is explicitly designed to reward players who use specific weapons, setups, playstyles, full stop, end of story, no argument. It cannot therefore be seen as anything other than From Software, also rewarding, intentionally or unintentionally, people choosing to play this way. Why do I disagree on sentiment then? Because Elden Ring isn't the only Souls game with PvP, and future titles don't have to be the same as Elden Ring. But if you just don't hold From Software to account and encourage people to want something more fun in the community, it's what you'll continue to get. I don't even think this person would disagree with me on that idea. But where I have a problem is in the apathy this type of content creates. Trigger warning, I'm about to use the term tryhard. I don't want anyone to interpret any meaning or perception when I'm using that term. I just want to make it clear I'm using it to identify a certain subsect of the community, and I'm going to point out a couple of small things I have noticed about it. Some of the things that I hear from the tryhard community in regards to why they play the way they do, it really revolves around two things. One is that really awful ganks exist, or because it is the most organic form of skill expression. They are taking the build making to its limits, using the knowledge you have to make the best setups possible. I'm not trying to sit here and make the argument that people that are able to pick out the most outstanding options in a game like Elden Ring are not working with a strong mechanical knowledge of the game itself. That's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is I think some of the best players that I've come across are players who know how to use those really broken things, but they don't decide to lean on them. Rather, they decide to find things that people overlook, see what could make them strong, and then make really strong setups out of them that are interesting. And then they post those things. Those are really cool. It's what I like to think about recently as the carry and slicer versus greatsword question. What are you trying to teach people is more important? The ease of landing something or the quality of what you hit? I'm not trying to sit here and say that anything that I have is particularly amazing. Half the stuff I'm doing recently is just punching people. Just be aware of your feedback loop is all I'm saying. Half the builds I made recently just haven't worked, so this isn't something that will come easy to anyone. But when you find something unique that works, it just hits different than just two-handed thrusting sword with spear talisman, because it's something that you did, it's yours. I feel like I'm kind of saying or echoing a lot of the same videos I've always made when I make these new videos. I don't know if it needs to be said, but it feels worth it to me to keep making stuff like this and talking about this. So I'll do it every once in a while, and hopefully y'all won't get too bored with the message. Plus, I never really felt qualified enough to give really in-depth critiques of Souls mechanics, because I feel like there are better people for that. I'll stick to critiquing the community. Alright, now that I'm done with that discussion, I think I'm going to go into a brief discussion of the builds that I have on this video and talk about some things that have worked for me recently and some things that have not. Which ones did work, which ones didn't work, essentially. This character right now is the Bloodstar. He is a remake, remaster, whatever, of my original build that utilizes rotation with Briars of Sin in my Int Focus carry and sorcery video over a year ago. What I tried to do was take him up to 102 and get him max cast speed with this same rotation of Briars of Sin and the carry and sword sorceries, Gavel of Haima, etc. The problem is he's at 102 with a Sword Seal, and it just did not work out in reality. It was a failure overall as a build. It's fun, but it takes too much damage. The setup is really hard to achieve. The tier I have, the Dexterity Knot tier, does get me to max cast speed with Radigan Sword Seal, but it just is too hard to get to work. This one that you're looking at right now is Real the Ominous. He's kind of the featured build on the video. Not the best, but kind of the one that's you'll see most circulating throughout. He's basically an inverted take on my EL the Doubter build, which is the Flowerstone Gavel offhand Beast Claw build. Lore-wise, these are all kind of characters that followed Mikola but broke off for one reason or another. They're all kind of like dry leaf, I guess non-monk dry leaf builds. But anyway, they're followers of Mikola that fell off for one reason or another at a point in time. Whole idea with this build is the offhand Matting Hand, to try to set up Madness to then set up that Lone Haft the Death Knight Long Half Axe Ash, and to see if I can kind of combine those two things. I have never been able to land that for one reason or another. But the offhand punches do translate into a very quick main hand attack for the Long Half Axe. So that L1, L1, R1 feels very snappy on this. I have managed to get several Madness procs into that L1, L1, R1 rotation, but I've not managed to land the Ash on Madness. Again, I'm sure you can. It's just that for whatever timing or for whatever reasons, I haven't been able to figure it out yet. So I like the idea, but it's been kind of a mixed success overall. Yeah, and it's fine. Again, this is like 90% of the creativity that I have recently. It's just offhand. It's offhand punching. It doesn't do great overall damage. The Madness isn't really well optimized on this character, but when it's achieved, it can be pretty fun with this rotation. And honestly, one more thing about this, the Long Half Axe is just one of my favorite movesets, especially on big axes. You can't go wrong with it. It's so much fun. I do like this build, but again, it's just kind of, it's been average successful, mixed success, so we'll go with that. And then now we're getting into a little bit more of kind of the territory that's working. This build is the Unseen Gaoler, Jailer, however you want to say it. It's actually Jailer, but I always think Gaoler in my head. I know it's not how it's pronounced, but I'm American, so I don't know how to pronounce words correctly. But it's an old build. It's been made before. Y'all have all seen it. All I did was respec him a little bit to use the Solitude Greatsword, because I never actually used it on a dedicated build in Elden Ring. I did play it and use it at the beginning of Shadow of the Erdtree, but I never really did a dedicated PvP build with it, and I thought it was time to change that. The build has swapped out a couple of talismans to focus on the two-handed damage, poise, and guard counters to make this weapon as deadly as I possibly can, and it's been a bit of an unqualified success. It's been really, really fun with this. It feels really, really great. The character was already pretty strength-coded, so the Solitude Greatsword was a very easy fit and transition to put on this build. I do feel a little bit weird not running the two-handed longsword with square off on this again, because I really, really liked that setup I had before. I imagine I will be very quickly switching this back after I've gotten tired of the Solitude Greatsword again, because I really like the build as it was set up before. But this is just a bit of a switch up for a little bit. That's been pretty fun. And honestly, having good hyper armor and poise for a bit on a character feels pretty good. I feel like I can actually stand toe to toe with people and not have to back down and kind of dance around attacks. It's a good feeling. A couple other things to note on the Solitude Greatsword. Unlocked two-handed R2s feel really good and have a lot of range on roll catches. You can kind of see that in this fight here, which is really, really good, by the way. And the Ash of War is kind of has an interesting skill expression to it. You can just blindly throw it out and keep using it over and over again, and people do have to react to that because they can't just walk into it, because it will do a lot of damage to them and can kind of out hyper armor a lot of things it's trying to push into, and it does cover a good distance. If you use the Moon Slash and then take a second to delay before you do that little shoulder punch piece, which is actually two parts in the second part of the Ash. The shoulder punch and then the slash are two different, I don't want to say hitboxes, but they're two different hits. You can actually really kind of mind game people a little bit, and kind of lock them in a chain of getting hit with that. So again, you throw out that Moon Slash, you wait for someone to think you're not going to do the follow-up, and then when they come in to swing on you, you initiate that shoulder push, it staggers them, and it's a true combo at that point. Once that shoulder stagger has happened into the slash, you can do a ton of damage with that. Here's another one we haven't pulled out in a while that I mentioned a little earlier. It's El the Doubter. In a lot of ways, I've never really touched this build. I wanted to pull him back out. He's at rune level 140. He is the exact same character that I made for that Flowerstone Gavel offhand Beast Claw video. I have not fundamentally changed him in any way. In fact, there's something I've noticed. While I will tweak or change a lot of invaders when I get kind of bored with the setup, so I just want to try new things, I have not done that to EL. There's something almost sacred to me about him, and I can't exactly put my finger on what it is, but I just love the build. It's probably kind of like that favorite toy-itis from me. And just to the point where I won't even really play with him a whole lot. I just kind of like thinking about him, and I don't want to kind of tarnish the experience I've had with him by, getting a really bad invasion. So I've just enjoyed this build so much. But the funny thing is, I think that, but then every time I come in to do an invasion with him, I never really have a bad one. And I think part of why I like him so much is it was in a phase where I was trying to really make... I'm still in that phase right now, but I was really trying to make just the soft swap setups I have on a character work for a whole invasion and just try to avoid hard swaps just to see if I could do it, because I really wanted to enjoy kind of a more of a role-playing aspect to it. And he just worked out so well with that idea. There are so few invasions that I've stepped into, none come to mind, that I walked into an invasion, and I didn't win all of them with him, obviously, but I could never be easily dismissed or easily dispatched by any host or phantom I came across. I was always a threat. And I think that's part of fundamentally one of the reasons why I really like him so much. Not only is he a cool character and a setup that I devised in my own brain, it's an effective one that worked really well. And I just, there's something so fun to me and so rewarding about that, I just can't get over it. But we'll go into kind of the last build here. This is the newest one that I put together. This is Vey, the Risen Vessel. And I'll start out with a fun little tidbit here. I'll give you some lore on this idea. So, Tarnished Archaeologist came out with a video not too long ago, the most recent one, about the secret rite that you find in the tower, in Mesmer's Tower, in the Shadow Tower, about what Mikola is planning to do with Mohg's body to bring Radahn back. And, it's kind of a grand rite. It's like the ultimate thing to put Radahn in Mohg's body. And I thought, that's an interesting idea. What if, you had, smaller scale versions of that? What if, chosen Hornsent warriors who could be brought back to life by the same rite that the Hornsent found into just, random bodies? And so from that, I created the idea of Vey, the Risen Vessel. So essentially he is like a warrior from the Lands Between, whose body was brought to the Tower of Anir to bring a chosen Hornsent warrior back, the spirit of a chosen Hornsent warrior, to possess this body. And then that's kind of the idea. Again, he's a risen vessel, kind of in the same vein as what Mikola was doing to Mohg and Radahn. And I think it's a really cool idea. That's why he uses the Hornsent Chosen Curve Warrior Greatswords, offhand Cestus, because again, I can't think of anything cooler to do recently in the offhand. But I really like this. So again, same rotation I was talking about with Rill the Ominous, that L1, L1, R1 kind of punch, but with an interesting take on this. Full chain that I like to land on this if I can is L1, L1, R1, and then the dismounter, the Chosen Hornsent Warrior Greatsword, has that really cool R2 catch that you can, R2 roll catch that you can do after the R1. But then, in addition to that, one of the neatest things about this is that R2 transitions really well in the end into the Ash of War. It's almost like it was meant to do that. That R2 smoothly swings around the character's head into the L2 Storm Ash of War that goes around. And it just feels so cool to land. If you can get that whole sequence, it will absolutely decimate anything it hits, anybody it comes across. I love landing that so much. It is just a fun time, and it's just a really, really cool, thing that I found on it. Just using the Thorny Cracked here and Millicent's Prosthesis on this to get some more of that successive hit damage. In addition to that, I'm coupling it with the Enraged Divine Beast Talisman, which, does buff the Ash of War on this, and allow me to be more interesting than just slapping the Alexander Jar Shard for the same effect. I also wanted to use the blue feathered branch talisman because it's just a lore excuse to have a little bit more HP on the back end when I'm low and have a little bit more survivability. And I've never put it on a build before, and this was a really good excuse to do it. And it kind of felt lore cool. Like he's already been brought back one time, so he's resisting death. He's fighting tooth and nail to not be to not be killed again. A bit of a one-trick pony on this character, but he's really fun. I enjoy him a lot, and yeah, this is a good build. But that's about it. I appreciate everybody who's been watching this. I know that some of my uploading frequency has declined a little bit. That's just because I am a dad. But I love everybody. Hope you're doing well, and I will see y'all again sometime soon. Okay, enjoy this last invasion, and peace.